Dear Patriots, before the news starts, please subscribe to our patriotic channel by clicking the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up to this video. Don't forget to leave your opinion below in the comments section. Share the news on Facebook and Twitter so you friends see it. Thank you.
Hoggs' jealous sister just made disturbing demand to Melania, gets ironic reality check. Parkland's anti-gun poster child David Hogg has made national headlines for his liberally charged shenanigans, meltdowns, and not getting accepted to colleges because he has serious personality and character flaws. He's threatened people with boycotts and turned innocent people into targets instead of spending his time reflecting on what happened at the school shooting and paying tribute to the people who lost their lives. Instead of being a voice for the victims, he's been an irresponsible and annoying voice for himself. Tweet after tweet he proves exactly why multiple colleges turned him down. He lacks the coherence and ability to grasp how the real world works and consistently provides Americans with his me attitude and arrogant personality. One of his latest stunts had pundits compare him to Hitler as he raised his fragile right arm and placed an armband on his twig-like left arm. People can easily ignore David Hogg and his hilariously pathetic attempt at grabbing the media's attention, but eventually, the mainstream media will pull the plug on him and he'll crawl back into his high school obscurity. Before his 5 minutes of fame is over, his jealous witless sister is reaching for her 5 minutes of fame as well. Lauren Hogg is traipsing around the internet begging for attention because no one's paying attention to her. David talked about not getting into a bunch of colleges and then a TV host reported on it. Sister Lauren thinks that's called bullying, but it's just reporting the facts. Little boy David wasn't accepted into multiple schools. He admitted it. The host reported it. The sister cried about it. That's all there is to it. That should be the end of the story, but it's not. To make things more embarrassing, Sister Hogg is crying to First Lady Melania Trump. Sister Hogg is acting like her brother David is being bullied when he's not. She's simply adding insult to the injury that's called the embarrassment caused by David, who is already swirling in enough controversies and social media nonsense. The Downtrend website talked briefly about the bullying situation and pointed out who the real bully is. Here's a pro tip: it certainly isn't Laura Ingraham. She's just reporting the facts, something that often hurts people's feelings if they are emotionally detached or unstable, something that is predictable in many far leftist believers. David Hogg has been bullying people ever since people were shot at his alleged school. He's calling for boycotts, he's cursing at people, and he's been acting like an absolute imbecile ever since people lost their lives in the Parkland shooting. This is all about him and nothing to do about the people who were killed. Hogg is a bully to the people who lost their lives as he exploits their tragedy for his own good and pushes his ridiculous me agenda, trying to establish himself and claim that he's changing the world, but he's truly acting like he's barely old enough to change his own pants. The entire situation surrounding the shooting at the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School must have the families and friends of the victims in an uproar as their lost loved ones are being exploited by the leftist agenda-seeking bloodhounds who don't care about anything but pushing their beliefs on others. The student activists are effectively ruining their own lives by participating in this social media battle for likes, activism, and leftist beliefs when they should be enjoying their lives as teenagers and doing things that are age appropriate. Activism is something that's built to attract losers because the winners in life are too busy doing a good job at everything else in the world. Many people wonder what the Hogg parents are thinking as they watch their children get trapped up in political schemes and be used by Democrats to push their party agenda. It's like a game of chess and the teenagers are being sacrificed like pawns trying to push the opposing force off the table. The sad thing is that the teens, like the Hoggs and their friends, are nothing more than a tool being used, and the people above them, guiding them in the wrong direction, could not care less about them. One day the activist teens will realize that no one above them actually cares for them. Once this 5 minutes of fame is up, then the teens will fall back into their own teen lives and hopefully go back to being everyday teens doing what kids do best. perv Jared Fogle begs Trump for early prison release, enrages him with who he pardoned instead. Convicted child pornographer and former face of Subway sandwiches has been locked up behind bars since 2015, where he belongs. He's not even 3 years into his 15-year and 8-month sentence but is already begging the president to let him out early. He had a better chance of getting that with Barack Obama, who had a habit of commuting the sentences of criminals who didn't deserve it. With nothing to lose, Fogle made the desperation move to beg President Trump for his early release. Not that he had a chance, but since he had the audacity to assume that Trump would consider putting a pervert back out on the streets, our awesomely unapologetic president responded with a perfect pardon that Fogle isn't too happy about. TMZ reports. Jared Fogle's making a new desperate attempt to be released from federal prison, and this time he's calling on President Trump, even though he's completely misguided. Fogle, that is. The convicted child pornographer filed a petition for a writ of habeas corpus. In non-Latin, that's a direct appeal for his jailer to release him. As we've extensively reported, Fogle has already made multiple appeals to judges to let him out, which have all been shot down. As with previous appeals, Fogle has come to believe the conspiracy charge against him is BS, and in docs, obtained by TMZ, he says he never would have pled guilty had he known back then. It's a totally futile effort, most likely, but here's what's really weird. Fogle's supposed to file this document against the warden of his prison, which he did, but he also included the press as a respondent, complete with 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue on the document. The only thing that Fogle hasn't been accused of recently is being a legal wizard, as proven with filing this pointless paperwork with no chance of getting what he wanted. While Barack Hussein Obama did a lot of pardoning in his 8 years in office, especially in his final 30 days, leaving the biggest traitor for last. In all that pardoning, he ever sent a patriot free but was sure to release commune the sentences of hardened criminals and enemies of the state. It seemed like a deliberate middle finger to America, especially since most of the people he pardoned went on to commit preventable crimes, and take more from society they were never entitled to. There's a time and a place for pardoning, and one of the major differences between President Trump and his predecessor is how and what they use it for. Trump proved with pardoning Arizona's much loved and respected Sheriff Joe Arpaio, and now he's doubling down on this effort in a major way. While Arpaio faced a prison sentence, major traitors to the nation, Hillary Clinton and her right-hand woman Huma Abedin, continue to walk free, having committed far worse. Former sailor, 22-year-old Christian Saucier spent a year in jail for taking 6 photographs inside the classified area of the USS Alexandria fell on exceptionally hard times after his initial release. He had hoped to get a pardon from President Trump to turn things around. After all, what was jailed for beyond paled in comparison to Hillary Clinton, who remains a free and thriving citizen today. Saucier's attorney even used a Hillary Clinton defense on behalf of his client, arguing that he couldn't be held to a higher legal standard than Mrs. Clinton. This proved to be unsuccessful at the time when Barack Obama was in office. Now, this former sailor is getting some long overdue news from President Donald Trump that Hillary probably isn't too enthusiastic about. The Washington Times reports. President Trump has pardoned former Navy sailor Christian Saucier, who was convicted of breaking laws by taking a photo inside a nuclear submarine, the White House said Friday. The case gained national attention because the prosecution of Mr. Saucier contrasted sharply with the Obama Justice Department decision not to bring charges against former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton for mishandling classified material on her secret email server. A federal judge in August sentenced Mr. Saucier, former Navy machinist, to 1 year in prison and a $100 fine. In announcing the pardon, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders cited Mr. Saucier's otherwise exemplary service in the Navy. The Daily Mail previously reported. In 2009, at age 22, Christian Saucier took 6 photographs inside the classified area of the USS Alexandria, a nuclear submarine, and eventually pleaded guilty of unauthorized possession and retention of national defense information. Now, after being released from prison, His house is in foreclosure as he tries to make ends meet as a garbage man, Fox News has learned. "We're really struggling," he told the network Tuesday in a new interview. "We can't pay our electric bill. Bill collectors are calling every day. I make only half what I used to make." The president sparked renewed interest in Saucier's case by tweeting about it on Tuesday. Crooked Hillary Clinton's top aide, Huma Abedin, has been accused of disregarding basic security protocols, Trump wrote. She put classified passwords into the hands of foreign agents. "Remember sailors' pictures on submarine?" Trump asked, referring to Saucier. "Jail. Deep State Justice Department must finally act?" Also on Comey and others. Following that tweet, Saucier had renewed hope in life after he has suffered the full wrath of the law for how he mishandled low-level class information. What he did pales in comparison to what Hillary and Huma have gotten away with for years. This is the reason pardons are in place. Hopefully, the other end to this major statement made by the president is that Hillary gets the long overdue sentence for how she grossly mishandled high-level and extremely sensitive information.